We are the Genzio Media House here in Dubai, and today I'm gathered with Keone from Monad. Hi, Keone.
Hi, Mia. Thanks for having me.
How has Dubai been for you so far?
Oh, it's been really fun, very hectic, definitely a little crazy with the storm. I got in on Monday and then the storm kind of hit on Tuesday. So spent a lot of time in Ubers, but overall.
Got caught on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people got caught on, and even now with the traffic, has been, is this your first time in Dubai?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's my first time as well. I think for many people, it's the first time. How are you finding it?
I think it's been great. I definitely want to come back sometime soon.
How do you find the energy here around crypto compared to New York?
Well, I mean, everyone's in conference mode, so I feel like it's felt a little bit like camping, just because at least on Wednesday it was very hectic and very hot. Spent a lot of time running around, but that's also good, kind of a bonding experience.
It is.
Yeah.
I want to start from the beginning. So tell us a little bit how you got into this industry.
I graduated from school in 2011 and then spent about 10 years in the high frequency trading space as a quant. So the job there is taking really large data sets and making very short-term price predictions using machine learning and statistics, and then building a really performant trading system as well. So in high-frequency trading, packets come in, and we want to respond to the information in those packets in a matter of microseconds or even sub-microsecond level. I did that for about 10 years. Specifically was at Jump Trading for 8 years, right before starting Monad. And then joined the crypto team at Jump in 2021, worked mostly on Solana DeFi while I was there. Just realized that there was a huge need for more performant Ethereum in particular. So decided to leave in order to start Monad.
What drove your attention to crypto?
Initially, for me personally, it was more driven by trading. As I think, a lot of people initially get interested in crypto because they learn about Bitcoin and they learn about Dogecoin. Or nowadays, I guess people are getting crypto pilled from dog with hat or other such means. But initially it started with trading, but then after learning more about on-chain, using the decentralized apps, installing MetaMask, interacting with various DeFi apps, I learned, as many people do on their journey, that there's a lot more to crypto than just trading.
And you were drawn to Solana initially?
I was, and I think more generally, the team at Jump, was definitely saw some resonance with Solana. Solana is really performant and really cheap. And at the scale of high frequency trading, where our trading team was sending millions of orders per day, it has to be the case that each of those orders has to be really, really cheap in order for it to be feasible on chain.
And then how did you arrive to the idea of Monad?
Well, like I said, at Jump, I and some of the people I was working closely with were really focused on Solana. But specifically as we were doing some research in the Solana space and providing support to some projects that Jump was working with in the Solana space, we realized that all of these systems are still quite nascent. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, probably that the Solana team acknowledged at the time and, acknowledges today in terms of optimizations to make the system more performant, more resilient to spam. Some of the issues that we're seeing now with Solana are, just still because it's a work in progress. As we realized that these systems were still very much a work in progress, I and my coworker James, who I started working with in 2014, also realized that there were huge improvements needed in Ethereum because Ethereum is a great, amazing distributed system processing about 10 transactions per second of throughput. And there's such a huge gap between that level of performance and what we would expect to get out of a computer. So huge opportunity to make things more performant.
Mm-hmm. So to go a little bit more deeper for the audience, how does Monad differentiate from Solana and any other similar layer one?
So Monad is a new EVM compatible layer one, offering over 10,000 transactions per second of throughput with 1 second block times and single slot finality. And what that means is that anyone who's built an application already for Ethereum or any other EVM compatible chain can redeploy it on Monad and benefit from much more plentiful transactions and much, much cheaper fees. So if you compare Monad to Ethereum, it's much higher performance. And if you compare Monad to Solana, it's fully EVM compatible. So anyone who's built anything for Ethereum already can take advantage of much higher performance.
And it's out already? Like people can already use it?
So Monad is in active development right now. I expect that the mainnet will go live roughly at the end of this year. But yeah, it's in active development right now. And a couple of the major improvements that exist in Monad are parallel execution, a custom state database, asynchronous execution, and a custom high-performance consensus mechanism. And all of these different improvements, which are kind of at different layers of the stack, are needed in order to deliver really performant EVM-compatible performance.
So when you look at all the trends that are going on in the market, with all the meme coins, all the L2s, is there anything this year that is that stands out to you as that is different from previous years? I don't want to call it a trend because trends are just for a moment, but something that maybe would stick around because you've been looking at the space, I imagine, for a while. Anything that stands out?
I think one thing that is different is that there's much more interest in really performant execution systems now than there was even 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago. So when we started Monad over 2 years ago, I think the very prevailing narrative was that everything should be built as a layer 2. And the way to be Ethereum aligned was by being a layer 2 on top of Ethereum, using Ethereum for data availability and settlement. And there was just a lot of sort of like narrative energy and consensus that this was the only way to go. And I think now, for various reasons, not all of which I could guess, or things are very path dependent, but if I had to guess, maybe one thing is the rise of Solana. But for various reasons, there's a lot more interest in performant execution systems. And, people are seeing that there are different ways to contribute to the Ethereum ecosystem, in particular by really improving the execution stack.
How did you come up with the idea, for the name idea for Monad?
Monad is, I always say it wrong, actually. I think the proper pronunciation is monad. I say monad. But yeah, a monad is a fundamental unit in philosophy as well as I believe in biology. It's a single-celled organism. And then in functional programming, it's also a component from functional programming. So probably 1 out of every 10 developers that we talk to, really likes the name just because they love monads from their previous functional programming experience.
Yeah, it works really well with the branding. I'm imagining like you built it thinking of trading, but it probably suits all other types of applications. What other types of applications could make sense to be built on Monad?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, any application developer who is seeking to build an application that can become number 1 on the iOS App Store needs performance like the performance of Monad. Monad at 10,000 TPS is about 1 billion transactions per day. And while that sounds like a lot, it's really not that much when you consider the level of adoption of an app that's number 1 on the iOS App Store. Like an app with 1 million daily active users with 100 transactions per user per day. That's literally, just by doing the math, 100 million transactions per day, or 1,000 TPS. So if anyone who's building an app that is seeking to cross the chasm to mainstream adoption is going to need much more performance than what we have right now. And again, for context, Ethereum is processing about 10 transactions per second for 1 million transactions per day. It's really just not enough to support anything that is achieving mass user adoption.
Mm-hmm. And that is an amazing incentive on its own. But will you have other incentives for people to migrate from other layers and perhaps just choose it as their main one as they're starting?
Yeah, I think there are a variety of reasons why folks might want to deploy on Monad in the early days, or why users might want to check out the new environment. And some of those are more like the incentives that you were referring to. But I think the other big thing is just the strength of the community. The Monad community is incredibly passionate, really high signal, really creative, really passionate about crypto and decentralization. And what we've seen in speaking to a number of developers is that that's the number one thing actually that draws them in to want to collaborate with our team, is because they can see that community is so powerful in crypto. That's the thing that ultimately will help crypto take over the world, is the strength of our communities. And the Monad community is so strong that it's just an environment where application developers that are building in the early days can benefit a lot from the support of the community.
Is Monad's community stronger in a particular region?
There are a couple of regions that are especially strong. Shout out to the Indo-nads from Indonesia and the Korean nads from Korea. But there are a number of quite strong regional communities. The Monad Mandarin is also extremely strong. So yeah, there's a lot of different regions where people are actually having regional meetups, getting together. We have a Monad Thailand meetup, I think, scheduled in 2 weeks or so, that's completely community driven. And I think that the combination of the online aspect of logging on and hanging out with your friends, which was, a lot of community members formed bonds during the bear market when things looked pretty grim. They could join the Discord and just hang out with a lot of their friends in the Monad community. And that combined with now more of an IRL presence is definitely strengthening things.
We definitely have a strong community. For anyone that hasn't interacted with the community at all, what would you say are some of the key? How would you describe this community? What are the principles, or the person? What's the personality of this community?
Yeah, I would say the main principles are just having fun, being oneself. We're very anti-farming, so in certain crypto communities, there's the danger that there are a bunch of bots that are just spamming GM or hello in the Discord. And there's also a pattern in some crypto communities of people asking their or teams asking their community members to do tasks that really aren't that useful. For example, we'll go write a thread about why BLA is so awesome that gets 0 views and is kind of a waste of the community members' time. We're very anti that. So we think it's important to encourage people to be creative. There's a lot of really great memes, a lot of amazing Mon artists, but also people can be creative in other ways. Organizing events. We had a karaoke contest about a week ago that was just organized by a couple of community members, ended up having over 300 people attending. Some really great singers, putting themselves out there, singing to a bunch of strangers on the internet. So there's a lot going on. There's just something for everyone.
And you went, I can't help but think, you went from quant trading to being a founder of an L1 in crypto. It's two worlds apart in many ways. Either you're traveling a lot now, you're interacting more with people, you have a community. How has your life changed?
I think the fact that the community has been so supportive has made it really easy, honestly. definitely feel very privileged to be part of a project that has such a strong community and that has opportunity to do foundational work in the space. There's certainly a lot more demands on time, a lot of travel needed, but I think that's really important because at the end of the day, any crypto project is building unique technology and also building communities that can ultimately take over the world and help foster much broader crypto adoption. So it's important to get out there and not just be like, at home or at the office typing away. Like, it's important to get out there. But yeah, I mean, the amount of excitement about Monad and outpouring of support from both Monad community directly and then just more generally from the crypto community makes it very energizing and feel very, very supported.
So when you put this idea out, you had this idea, obviously like scratching around itch, but also like finding an opportunity in the market. No one has done this and it makes sense. When you start, it's obviously like the idea for this year. But what is like the long-term vision? Like say like in 5 years or so, do you have like a much bigger vision for Monad? And if so, like, can you share?
Yeah, Monad is a developer platform at the end of the day. It only exists in service of applications and users. So the vision for 1 year and 5 years is to support really powerful applications that take over the world, that are decentralized, that fight against the tendency towards centralization that we see right now. There's a lot of different ways and paths for that to happen. It's an effort from the entire team and the entire community to make that possible. But that's the grand vision.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see that aligning with the grand vision that you might have, like your view for the blockchain ecosystem?
I think that decentralization is extremely important, and right now we're in a time when there are temptations to rely on systems that are more centralized in nature. So, for example, there's with the interest in greater performance from execution systems, there's kind of a fork in the road. I imagine that meme, like the which way Western man, the light go in the path of the light or the path of the dark.
Yeah.
Toward decentralization or toward centralization. And there's the temptation to go the centralized route because the centralized route is always easier. So just to take one specific example, the biggest bottleneck for execution, for allowing really high performance of a blockchain is actually state access. So when running transactions, each of the transactions relies on state. And there's a lot of state in Ethereum, so the state has to live on an SSD. And it's very tempting to sort of devise a system where the system has really high memory requirements so that all the state lives in memory and that thus is a lot more accessible. But doing that actually has a huge effect on the decentralization of the network, because if the nodes have to have really high RAM requirements, then it's hard for normal people to run nodes and have access to all of that blockchain state. It's hard to have a system with a lot of nodes. So at the end of the day, I guess to sum up, I think we're at a point in time right now where there are temptations to rely on systems that either have high memory requirements or blockchains that have very few nodes, or in the extreme case, blockchains that are literally just one node, and to kind of say like mission accomplished, job done, we got performance, and we did so at while sacrificing decentralization. So with Monad, Monad is offering decentralization plus performance by making architectural improvements that make much better access of SSDs so that we can rely on machines that don't have very high hardware requirements, and we can have systems with hundreds of nodes participating in consensus. So that's just, like a theme that I think will persist over the next couple of years. And it's just really important to take the light path, take the path for decentralization.
You think some of these systems that are more centralized and blockchains, you think they will die out eventually as Monad eventually comes out and other similar that will probably follow you? Do you think that it won't be one or the other anymore?
I think that we're currently in a kind of a transient stage.
Yeah.
Everything is path dependent, though, which, it means the speed to market of systems that are very decentralized and the basically having that offering out there so that people can get the best of both worlds. That's extremely important to ultimately having crypto kind of go in the direction that I think is consistent with our ideals of decentralization. I do think that, there's always going to be a variety of different approaches, but the other thing is that our community, the Monad community, is incredibly passionate about those ideals and conveying those values. So I think at the end of the day, the community will be the vector that ensures that this decentralized approach prevails.
Yeah. How did you went about building the community? Because you've been working on this for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah. It's the result of a lot of hard work and creativity and thoughtfulness from a number of members of our team, as well as just amazing contributions from community members who have set a really high standard and have thus set that tone for high quality contributions, high signal community. It's definitely not just one singular initiative or one singular person, but rather, a mix of different efforts. Someone who's always there in Discord, being a positive presence, and many really high quality meme artists and community members who are just like setting the tone for really high quality contributions.
Do these people ever try to come and work with you?
Come in what?
And work with you?
In a couple of cases, we've actually had community members who have ended up joining the team in a full-time capacity. That's another amazing thing I think about crypto is that both from the individual side and from the company side, there's the opportunity to find amazing people and amazing opportunities strictly through community.
Mm-hmm. But maybe someone watching would be interested in joining. I don't know if you're open for applications, but how could they get in touch?
Yeah, a couple of things. My DMs are open on Twitter, so folks can feel free to DM me at Keone HD on Twitter. Additionally, we have a link to our job boards from our website, which is monatlabs.xyz.
And you will be sharing more updates, hopefully, as it progresses.
Yeah, we'll do.
Keone, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Mian.